about taxes and whatever exemptions regime that have come out of the broader tax regime. And so for us, this second edition will focus on identifying and streamlining barriers to enhance operations and investment opportunities for investors, and obtaining feedback on implemented governmental policies on taxes and exemptions. That is why we have the theme today, Understanding Ghana's Taxes and Exemptions Regime Towards Increasing Investor Confidence in the Business Environment. Indeed, taxes play a monumental role for government's developmental goals in transforming societies. Like I said, the only true business of government is to ensure that first they create the environment for growth and then collect the taxes. And through taxes, revenues are generated to meet budgetary demands, including financing government and public projects, as well as making the business environment conducive for economic growth. Tax systems face a lot of hurdles in most developing countries, and Ghana is no exception to this phenomenon. First of all, our tax to GDP is comparatively, and compared to our peers, pretty low. I think we are currently somewhere between 15, 16. Sorry? Oh, 12.6% compared to the regional average of somewhere around 25. Is that correct? Right. So obviously we are not collecting enough taxes. And because we are not collecting enough taxes, then government is faced with very difficult options of raising finance to meet its obligations under the budgetary demands. Now, because we are not able to collect taxes as government, this also leads to an inadequate revenue generation for most long-term development projects, as well as even the short-term development projects. And that hinders our economic growth and impedes our structural goals economically and infrastructurally. And though we need roads, we need bridges, we need railways, we need homes, it's difficult for government to engage in all those things. And there comes in the partnership with private sector. But of course, the private sector is indeed the universe from which government collects its taxes. So it's very important that we should sit down, that's government and private sector, to engage to see how we can optimally improve the tax regime, but also ensure that private sector is convinced and comfortable with the fact that we all have to pay taxes. A cursory look at the tax regime over the previous year is worth mentioning. In late 2019, the laws on income tax, national fiscal stabilization levy, the special import levy, and the value-added tax were amended to give government, or to give effect to the government's plans in the 2020 budget. In March in 2020, it was in March 2020, the customs law was amended. The amendment introduced a number of customs-related exemptions for our automobile assembling industry and restrictions on importation of salvaged or overaged vehicles. And with the Gazette that was dated 30th April 2020. But in September 2020, the customs law dealing with the importation of salvaged vehicles was suspended. Now, obviously, this was due to the heavy impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on, should I say, trade flows, and as we all remember, the ports were closed, ships couldn't go and come back. There was a severe disruption of global trade and global supply chains, and that led to a severe erosion of revenues, and this affected taxes also monumentally. And so government reversed this to enable at least some of these things to pass through and regenerate some business. Now, also in his efforts to mitigate the adverse impact of the virus, the Minister of Finance, in his statements to Parliament this year, outlined a number of tax policy measures meant to provide some reliefs to individuals and businesses. And we all agree that this may be very important, especially due to the effect of the pandemic. The multiple amendments included tax breaks and grants necessary to enable businesses, especially the small and middle-sized businesses, to survive in the wake of this really devastating pandemic. Also, in the 2021 budget, the government declared its intention to implement penalties, but also interest waivers as an incentive package to help revitalize businesses and help them bounce back to conform with tax laws after the COVID-19 pandemic. Although in the short term, tax exemptions may not seem beneficial to the government due to taxes being a major source of funding, they are necessary for development, as I've stated before. And they also allow businesses to achieve better environmental operating circumstances. Because if government is able to collect taxes, our roads will be fixed, our drains will be fixed, and all the other environmental issues that enable businesses to grow will be fixed. With respect to investment climate, investors are also part of the business environment, and so they either pay all or some of these taxes: corporate tax, withholding tax, value-added tax, national health levy, the Ghana Education Trust levy, employment tax, dividend tax, customs and excise duties, and communications service tax, amongst others. With all the tax amendments and the exemptions that have been put in place, especially during this era of global difficulty, Ghana has increased investor confidence in the business environment. And I'm pleased to say that in 2020, total FDI into Ghana was in the region of 2.65 billion. It was the third largest in Africa after Egypt with 5.5 billion and Nigeria with 2.66 billion. Now, this is very commendable because we all understand what happened during the pandemic, where most nations started looking inwards. And the UNDP and UNCTAD predicted that global foreign direct investment flows will shrink by some 42%. And of course, Africa would have been the worst hit in that regard. So it's interesting and commendable that despite all these vagaries of the pandemic, Ghana was still able to maintain attractiveness. And I believe the fact that we engage with private sector and we discuss and have this regular activity is one of the reasons why there is still confidence in the market. I've always described the Ghana situation as the 3 O's: opportunity, openness, and optimism. And we can only engage in those 3 when we have a seamless engagement with private sector. Now, we must all understand that one of the major differences between developed and developing economies is the tax systems and the citizens' adherence to the regulations government put in place in that regard. In every country, people pay taxes. But as I've just shown you, our tax to GDP in Ghana is 12.6%. It's woefully inadequate. And it means that many of us do not pay taxes. And recently, I was in a little conversation, and I realized that there were many opportunities that many of us, even in the middle class and in the working class, inadvertently did not really put our efforts into ensuring that there's maximum effort in collecting taxes. And I'll give you a simple example. For many people in their homes, they employ a driver, they employ a cook, they employ a gardener, they employ a cleaner, etc., and they pay them cash. Now, all these people are not captured in the tax bracket or in the tax net. But we are the ones who should ensure that they are. But that is perhaps minute as compared to having businesses pay the appropriate taxes, but also giving businesses the confidence that the tax regime we have is fair and mutually beneficial. As we seek to progress further to improve the business environment and to increase investor confidence, even in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, through the various reforms that are ongoing at the center, as well as from the relevant ministries, such as the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and other regulatory bodies, including the Registrar General's Department, we invite all of you to effectively participate in this session, because I'm sure we'll have very interesting debates. And I can tell you that at the aftercare division, and even in my office, we always get complaints from big businesses, not even the small ones, about incentives that were supposed to have been given at the time they were investing, and then suddenly, when they are invested and they are expanding, etc., those incentives are held back. But we also recognize that there are many situations where businesses extend this largesse beyond the time within which they were supposed to enjoy it. And so almost interminably get these incentives all the whilst those incentives were designed for specific time periods. And I believe that we can resolve all these when we meet like we've met here today and discuss them and have clearer understanding between ourselves. Because at the end of the day, like I've said and I want to re-emphasize, government's main business is to ensure that they collect the taxes that they rightfully need to collect. And that is how we can create a better foundations for which businesses can grow when we've managed to fund a reliable infrastructure and reliable operating environment. I believe that our discussions this morning will go a long way to deepening our understanding of the topic on taxes and exemptions, and to find practical ways of ensuring that we are beneficiaries of the system. As the MC said, there are two constant things in life: God and taxes. And we need to recognize that and embrace that we will pay the taxes. But we need to find a way to ensure that we clearly understand what the implications are, and we clearly extend our roles as good citizens to ensure that we have a very fluid and unencumbered taxation system. I look forward to the insightful presentations of all the speakers, and there are some very interesting speakers here who would help us exhaust this debate. And there will be panelists who also discuss the issues that mutually affect us. And I believe that it will all be for the good of all of us. So thank you very much for coming. I hope you had a wonderful breakfast. The food is still there, so if you need refueling as the discussions and debates go on, please feel free and have it. And thank you once again to Labadi Beach, our very good partner who has made this possible. Enjoy. Thank you.
For doing more than 10 minutes, you have exhausted all your tax reliefs, Mr. Yofi Grant, so you are liable. Thank you for that warm note of welcome and for articulating so well our business for the day. If you're joining us online, we are right here at the Labadi Beach Hotel. It's Ghana's five-star or foremost five-star hotel, and we bring to you the second GIPC CEO's Breakfast under the theme, Understanding Ghana's Taxes and Exemptions Regime Towards Increasing Investor Confidence in the Business Environment. Today's event is made possible through the Aftercare Division, which has been so articulated by our CEO. Let me just walk you through some of the things that we do. The new Aftercare Division, in line with the mandate of the GIPC, is mandated to encourage, promote, and facilitate investors in all sectors of the economy. The Aftercare focuses on established investors in Ghana and working closely with ministries, departments, and agencies to facilitate resolution of investor challenges and issues. We also offer value-added services to investors, including live updates on bankable projects that they can either expand or diversify their business portfolios with. Additionally, we also create platforms to enable the network with relevant parties in Ghanaian business communities with an aim of encouraging investors to reinvest, and stay in Ghana. And stay in Ghana. This is how we grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, the head of the Aftercare Division and the team are here. Madam Victoria Koba, how about a round of applause? Let's see you. All right. And so they're available for any interaction at the end of this session. You might have noticed that we've put survey forms on your table. Please fill them out. In the course of the event, we'll be coming round your tables. If there's anything we can assist you with, on any of the questions, please draw the attention of our ushers, and they'll be glad to assist you in that regard. Some of you are asking me, where's the program? Well, this is the program. It's a little scan you need to do with your phone, unless you are using a YAM. But if you just scan it, you will see the program on your phone. We are going green, and sustainability is the watchword. This morning, it is important that we're joined by AHK, the delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Ghana, a part of the worldwide AHK German Chamber network present in 92 countries around the world, offering experience, network, and services to German and foreign companies. It falls to the head of the Competence Center in charge of private sector development and projects to make a short presentation to us this morning on the challenges faced by private sector in 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Madame Stephanie Simone.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. Thank you very much to GIPC, especially Mr. Grant and the Aftercare Division for this opportunity. And thank you for Jerry to remind me later about the 10 minutes. If I take 2 minutes more, I have something to give to you later. Next one, please. So there are some sectors where we see big potential for German companies. Of course, for the past year, the healthcare and pharma sector has become very important. We have also the construction sector that plays a huge role, and we have a lot of German companies that are very active in the sector. Of course, the big thing now is also the automotive sector. We all know Volkswagen. We have the food processing sector, and that's something I've been showing here. This is chocolate made by a German company in Ghana. That was a little bit easier to bring than a Volkswagen. We also have the IT sector that plays a big role, and logistics. On the next slide, we have a brief overview of what German companies are already present in Ghana. Volkswagen, Allianz, Siemens, DHL, just to name a few. And do we still have the microphone? And we are always very interested in supporting them. But we also have some companies that are maybe less known. In Germany, the small and medium-sized enterprises also play a big role. So that's why we also are very proud that a company like Fair Afrique has established their business here. One thing that we do is we try to group and try to support the German companies and their supply chain to evaluate what kind of investment barriers are present in the country, to also show our commitment to them, but also to show our commitment to Ghana. One concept that we established is the so-called roundtable concept to evaluate those investment barriers. We've grouped that in 3 different sections. First of all, we have a discussion with a group of companies. That's 3 to 5 companies on a very small level. We then follow up with questionnaires to the bigger and wider business community. And then we discuss about measures that we can take out of those results. So at the moment, we are discussing challenges and the status quo in existing roundtables like bureaucratic procedures, which is not sector specific, but it also covers the issue of taxes. And we have some others on mechanization in the food processing sector and also the topic of standardization. Our biggest challenge was how to move on from the results that we are generating to defining certain measures and discuss it with organizations like GIPC, which now we have a good chance with the aftercare division who's been instrumental in these things in the past few weeks and months. Some of the results that we received from the last roundtable, that was more on a general basis, was what are bureaucratic procedures that we have challenges with. That's definitely the duplication of online and paper processes, the user-friendliness of digital processes, and responsiveness in the organizations. But also time-consuming approval processes, how reliable are information that are available, and the procedures. We then go on after the roundtable to follow up with the questionnaire, and I only have one example here how that can look like. There's a whole set of questions that we have for each of them, and that is also available in a report on our website. Now, coming back to the actual topic of taxes. So on the next slide, you can see we structured basically the 2 elements, setting up a business, but also running a business, and what are the challenges here under bureaucratic procedures. When you set up a business, topics like the minimum equity, taxes, tax exemptions are very relevant. Running a business, paying the company taxes, NIT, and also customs are the most relevant topics. So some of the things that came out of our discussions with companies is, first of all, the focus on digital processes, especially for regular tasks. Regular tax payments is a very important thing that is been discussed. Then the second one, especially now during a pandemic, make non-personal encounters, email, social media, and other modes of communication as relevant as personal appointments. The third one, expand information available online and use one major channel for all tax-related issues. I think the problem of information being scattered sometimes is a challenge for companies, especially when they don't know where to look. And a lot of foreign investors wouldn't necessarily know where to look. A fourth topic is the approval processes. And again, one major channel to guide investors concerning taxes and equities. And the definition of procedures for investors and foreign companies and enforcing of those procedures is a very important topic. Now, we have these questions and the problems evaluated and are now lucky to be able to discuss the findings with GIPC, We've already taken some first measures, and we are very happy that, for example, the social media handles of GIPC are very easy accessible. That's very helpful for our investors. The introduction of the aftercare division, we also want to present that in our newsletter to the business community. And also, and this is another important thing that is very relevant to us, we do not only want to rely on the governmental institution, we also believe that the business community can within themselves support each other. So sharing of data, sharing of information, and doing lessons learned sessions is also an angle that we are trying to follow so that companies can support each other together with the governmental institutions like GIPC. I mean, I've emphasized it before, the establishment of the aftercare division is a great opportunity and support for us as organization and for our companies that we represent. As I said before, I have some samples here. This is the Fair Afrique I've been talking about. This is a chocolate made in Ghana, which is mainly for the export. So it's a free zone company, but they also are available locally. And yes, I will give one to Jerry, one to Mr. Grant, and then the last one we can share. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a resounding round of applause. Thank you very much, Madame Stéphane Simon, for doing us the honors, walking us through the challenges faced by the private sector in doing business in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, for a few minutes, please lend your attention to the screen as we show you a success story of a German business that has seamlessly been integrated into our system.
When we set up the Universal Motors in 2004, we registered with GIPC, and that was the reason was to represent Volkswagen in Ghana. So we were the importers of Volkswagen in Ghana. When the government came out with the policy of assembling cars or introducing the automotive industry in Ghana, we jumped on the occasion immediately and informed our principals, Volkswagen, who showed immediately a big interest, definitely after promoting Ghana, talking about the ease of doing business, about the center of the earth, if you want, as well, and as being the hub for West Africa and hopefully Africa.
On the global platform, we are really a giant. We're the #1 automobile company coming into the Ghanaian market. We are very optimistic and very quite confident that we are going to also boost quality cars and the standards also into a top level.
Our target is to reach every single, possibly every single client or user, driver in Ghana by introducing cars from the entry segment like the Polo or the Gold, going up to the top segments.
We build the cars here. We make it much more affordable because the government policy, which is supporting the importation or having also import taxes below, this makes it much more affordable to a Ghanaian market. And I will not advise that you will go back to Europe and import the same car here. You will get it here. It's the same brand, it's the same engine, same standard, and also same quality.
Most of the current auto industry manufacturers around the world, China, for example, or Thailand, or other countries around the world, started the way we started now as SKD and developed to be one of the major manufacturers of auto industry. So we are moving step by step, developing with Ghana into the auto industry.
The economy is boosting, people are spending, and this is also our surroundings around the sub-Saharan Africa. Ghana has been always been the lead. So we saw Ghana as a foot, the gateway that we have to step in.
We have employed new people, but at the same time, with the growth, many more people are being employed.
We enter in here with our partner, Universal Motors, who is having over 300 staff here. We have a new engineers or mechanics that they are even, I would say, they are now doing the most wonders now in VW industry in Ghana. They are building the cars.
It's a very good first step into developing the auto industry, and this is the best way, the real way to grow in Ghana and then to grow with Ghana.
Fellow investors, we have taken the lead. It's all about collaboration. We invite you, let's all get together, grow in Ghana, grow with Ghana.
What's possible with collaboration, ladies and gentlemen, the GIPC and the AHK. How about a round of applause for the VW story? This is how we grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. In moving on, it is particularly appropriate that we hear from a policy maker, ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Finance, here to speak to us on the policy directives of taxes affecting the private sector and tax exemptions. Please welcome the head tax policy unit, Mr. Daniel, I beg your pardon, Nuer. I didn't say he's collecting the taxes today, please, let it be warned.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you can put up the slides, please. I won't be giving a speech, I'll be giving a short presentation on some of the things we discussed. I believe the CEO of the center has done most of the speaking for me this morning, so the slides will just suffice. All right, so generally, I think we all know the role of domestic revenue in an economy and the need for us to generate that revenue. Ghana generally has a fairly international standard tax system. We have our income taxes, so there's the corporate tax, there's the personal income tax. We have a VAT, we have the international trade taxes, we have excises, which is generally what you find in a tax system. And so in that regard, there isn't too much difference. There, as one of our former ministers says, the difference is how you tinker with those items. Okay, so next slide, please. I'll go to the next one. Then we also have a system of tax expenditures. And I like moving, I'll come to more to that in a minute. We all know what happened last year, 2020. We're going on quite well, and then, as somebody said, the anticlimax, COVID struck, and everything changed basically overnight. So the question then is that, what are we doing next? Sorry. We had to change a lot of things overnight. Our tax revenue shrank. We had to come up with measures to meet these quite a few tax measures were taken to sort of mitigate what was happening. At the end of the day, we still made our tax. We still made some money, and so we're better off than other places. Growth was 0.4% of the economy, unlike other places which went negative. And so we're fairly okay. But then government had to come up with a plan to see what the next steps were. And so the Obatampa, or the Ghana Cares program, was launched. 100 billion CD program. 70%, that 70 billion was supposed to come from the private sector. The other 30 would come from the government side. And in doing that, the question was the 30 billion, what was going to be used? Taxes was part of it. Reining in exemptions was part of it. Tackling expenditure was part of it. Ensuring discipline in government spending was part of it. So all these were part of the Ghana Cares program. And the idea is that 30% that government is supposed to finance should bring our tax to GDP ratio to 20%. Currently, non-oil tax to GDP ratio is 12.6%. If you add oil revenue, we are around 14% of GDP. And so there's a need then to come out with some of these things and see how best the tax system can be structured to bring this income in. The topic today is basically on tax exemptions. But normally I like to change the narrative. Please, if you can move on. Next slide. Okay, next slide. I'm moving into the taxes. Some of these things are known already. Now, we want to change the narrative a bit and move from tax exemptions and talk about tax expenditures, which is what it should be. Because the issue is that government uses tax for certain purposes. Exemptions is just part of it. And so it's important when we are talking about these things to really put ourselves in that understanding that taxes have a role to play. And that if we are looking at tax expenditures, then they also have what they are supposed to do. And it's very important. Tax expenditures are supposed to direct what government does with its taxes. Exemptions allow you to waive part of the taxes. The other incentives, which also not generally waive, but allow you to do something, and in quid pro quo, you're given some tax waiver or other for it. So we need to broaden that discussion. Because in the exemption review regime, there have been abuses. People take the exemption and then pass it on to a third party, which shouldn't be done. They are supposed to have it for a period. At the end of the period, they metamorphose into something else and come back and want to take the same thing. And there's a whole line of things that can be said. But then, government has undertaken certain activities over the past few years. It's been going on for a while. But in 2016, there were two major pieces of legislation that dealt with exemptions. The first one was the Revenue Administration Act, which had two provisos. First one, the Commissioner General had the right, in fact was given the mandate and the power, to refuse to implement any exemption that was not instituted by law. Two, every waiver of variation in an agreement needed to be sanctioned by the Minister of Finance. That was for the Revenue Administration Act. Then the PFM Act had several provisions. One of them relates to agreements, that there shouldn't be any agreement which had fiscal impact or multi-year fiscal impact without the consent of the Minister of Finance. It also provided that tax expenditures should be reported in the annual budget, indicating expenditures given for the year and expenditures for the future, for the next year, coming year. The idea of this was to make tax expenditures transparent and make sure that things were done according to law. Because what was observed was that were things that were being done as practice. And let me repeat, as practice, but not law. And we had become used to them. So when there was a change, then it became a problem. But these things were brought in to ensure that there was a certain level of equity, there was a certain level of certainty, and there was a certain level of openness about exemptions, as we like to call it, but tax expenditures, as I like to call it. And so, with this being done, we then went to the next steps of enforcing. And for those who are registered with GIPC, I know that there were a few unpleasant things that had to be done because we're practicing more than doing what the law said. So for strategic investors, the issue was that there was a discretion, there was an approval, but we never went to Parliament to get the things approved under 1742 of the Constitution. And the Constitution 1742 says that when an enactment gives a discretion to a person to waive or vary taxes, it must be done with the prior approval of Parliament, and that means there must be a resolution of Parliament that backs it. So we're giving incentives to strategic investors. Unfortunately, we're not doing some of this. So the issue was, okay, going forward, I mean, you won't go back and take some of these things off, but going forward, we needed to implement what the law said. Section 26(2) of the Act, the minister, he could ask for some additional, what's the word for it? Additional exemption incentives when it came to machinery and other things. It was import duty incentives. Practice, we expanded it to cover VAT and other things. And if, I'm sure we have a few lawyers here, there's a saying in law that when it comes to taxation, it's strict interpretation of law. It's what the law says that you do. It is not in law, gradually straightening up the system. It's not been a day, but as we do this straightening, some of us will get caught up in it. And the chamber was just talking about the availability of information. And so that education is gradually going on for us to sort some of these things out and bring them in the way that. I'm not going according to my slides, I know, but I think that it's important that I make it a bit, I explain it. The slides are there later on, we can get them and then look at them. And so these are some of the things that have been happening on the exemptions line. There's an exemptions bill that is coming up, and that bill also seeks to streamline some of these things, because you have exemptions provisions scattered in various legislation. Again, some of these things, when it comes to taxes, actually, even in those legislation, it should have been brought to the attention of the ministry. Sometimes it didn't happen. Some are years old. Sometimes we've read things that existed in other provisions, earlier provisions, that have been amended, and yet we still maintain them. And so the current structure that is going on is to bring the exemption regime or the tax expenditure in line with law, and make sure that we cut out the abuses. Tax expenditures exist across the whole world, and Ghana is no exception. We will use incentives to promote business. It is important. And so government will do that. But it must be done in an equitable way. It must be done in a way that it is transparent. It must be done in a way that it is efficient. So when it comes to a point that an exemption or a term tax expenditure is no more relevant, it should be possible to say, we've come to the end of this period. This thing has to go aside. There might be something else to do. So we are looking at, the Ministry of Trade is looking at some sectors. They're looking at the pharmaceutical industry. We are looking at auto. We are looking at housing and construction. There are about 5 or 6 sectors that the Ministry of Trade is looking at. That is government's focus. Now it's another industry's time to grow that industry with incentives. We can't give all the revenue out at the same time. If tax collection becomes only incentives and tax expenditures and exemptions, how do we develop? Government cannot continue to borrow, because when government borrows, they are competing with the private sector for the amount of money that you need that one to grow so that government can tax you. And so there's a paradox here that we all need to put our minds together and look at. If you go to my final slide, let me just conclude on that one. A final slide, please. Or maybe, okay, I've actually seen them that we need to make exemptions efficient. We need to make sure that, excuse me, they are equitable. We need to make sure that those that are supposed to have them. We take out irrelevant ones, put in sunset clauses, and generally report on exemptions and make it transparent. In line with that, there are a few things that we are looking at in that sense. As we go on, what we are doing now is entry website, the Parliament of Ghana website. Go to their bills and publications. You can find a copy there, you can download it. What we might do is that we might make a copy available to the aftercare unit also, so that if you have comments on them, you can give us those comments as they affect you. And then together, we can build these things. We've always discussed with stakeholders, maybe not you, but your consultants and others, when we are making tax laws. And we expect that we'll do the same this time to streamline the system and give comfort to everybody. Thank you.
One more time, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daniel Nuer is the head tax policy unit at the Ministry of Finance, walking us through Ghana's policy directives for taxes affecting the private sector and tax exemptions. I like that part where you say we should focus more on tax expenditures. I can take you on the whole day. But ladies and gentlemen, my friends who are joining us online have been sending me loads of messages. This seems like talking points to a child. But we're going to break it down to the barest minimum when my panel comes up here. Before that, however, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a video of Grow with Ghana, Grow with Ghana.
Company we started nearly 2 decades back. We are into the steel manufacturing and trading house. Today we are very proud to say that BFAP Plus has become a net exporter to whole West African countries. So not only we serve Ghana, but we also export to 15 West African countries. We are producing nails, binding wire, wire mesh, galvanized mesh, square pipes, Z profiles, steel plates, roofing sheet, iron rods. These are all products we are producing here. Recently, BFAP Plus put up the smelting plant. So at present, we are also producing rebars from scrap. That is BS 4449 grades and different grades. Under 1D1F, under His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, we have opened West Africa's biggest fabrication plant, that is in Lapleku, where we are producing any type of fabrication where you talk about shades, different types. We can make the residential buildings, tankers, storage facility, anything you name it, we can produce that one there. And we are very proud to say that currently whatever BFAP Plus has produced in the last couple of months under 1D1F, we have been receiving very high report of that. The quality and the service what we have provided that it is really commendable. And at the same time, BFAP Plus has also come up with a melting unit, biggest melting unit. At present, we have already started since last October, and very soon we are going to commission the rolling mill as well. Ghana Club 100 Award, we have been recipients for the last couple of years, and as per GIPC ranking in the industrial, we are always number 1 and 2. In the steel, we are number 1. So that has gone a quite positive way. And whenever you receive any award from a reputed institution like GIPC, that gives an additional edge, and when you are dealing with your other counterparties. And at the same time, it also keeps you on the toes to make sure that you should keep doing the good work what you're doing. And so far the processing and working with GIPC has been really great. BFAP Plus currently employs more than 10,000 people directly, indirectly. Beside that, we have more than 1,000 distribution network. At present, BFAP Plus is having 12 branches across Ghana in different regions. Today, BFAP Plus is serving housing industry, to the oil and gas industry, to the mining industry, to clients of corporates like who are into the residential projects, and fabricators, and lot more. We are the promoters of DPSI International School in Community 25, support the sports activity, and a lot more. I think the guy and the service, if you give them the box of everything, and BFAP Plus is one-stop shop for steel. So you name it, we have it. Ghana is like a second home. I was 32 years in Africa and spent 26 years in Ghana. So say when my children are born here and we love to do business here, it is the people who really make a big difference. Geographically, location, if you really look at it, is an ideal location to operate from here to the other West African countries. And there are ample of opportunities. The first thing somebody should say that when it comes to the quality of steel and the pricing, it is the BFAP Plus. And at the same time, we also want to be known for our CSR activities. BFAP Plus not only produces the quality steel, but they also produce the quality leaders for tomorrow. I would like to take this opportunity for all my dear friends inside and outside Ghana, that they should take an opportunity to come and invest in Ghana, associate with a company like BFAP Plus, grow with it, join us.
A very compelling case of growth in Ghana and growing with Ghana, the case of B5 Plus. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Takwani is here. Let's applaud him. A round of applause. Thank you very much. Now, combining breakfast and a topic like tax can be a little daunting. I see some of you are beginning to see God in 3D. Your eyes are telling. Let's do something to break the ice. Do you have your phones here? Please turn them on. Let me show you something. If you have your phones, why don't we even rise to our feet? That will energize us the most. Please, let's be upstanding, just for a brief while. This conversation is a national one, and I believe that a lot more people need to hear. So we're going to take some 3 selfies. Mr. Yofi Grant will lead us. And we're going to use some hashtags, and I want you to send it to as many friends who need to be part of this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say 1, 2, 3, we snap 1. Are we ready? And so let's go 1, 2, 3. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now use the hashtag GIPC CBM. Use another hashtag GH taxes and exemptions, and use the hashtag Ghana. Let's send it out there on social media. Let's tell all our friends that this important conversations on Ghana's tax exemptions is happening right here at the Labadi Beach Hotel, thanks to the GIPC. Please be seated. Now that I have your attention, ladies and gentlemen, would you please help me welcome my friends who flesh out the issues that have been discussed in great detail, Mr. Lawrence Hochonyame, Mr. Emmanuel Akon. For the next 45 minutes, ours will be to lend our insights to this great theme that we're reflecting on, and also through the lenses of the presentations that have come thus far. Yes, sir. Okay, gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I'm a little disappointed we don't have a lady amongst us, but no problem. We'll pay the tax for them. This morning, we're joined by Mr. Lawrence Hochonyame. He's the Principal Revenue Officer at the Ghana Revenue Authority. Let's see by wave. Thank you. Let's have Mr. Emmanuel Akon. He is the Head of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation at the Ghana Shippers Authority. Thank you. Mr. Collins Enim Saki joins us as the Director, Policy Planning, the Minerals Commission. And Mr. Ebenezer Hammer is a Manager, Project Evaluation, Petroleum Commission of Ghana. Thank you, honorable gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm told that, please, a round of applause for them. I can see we're all complying by wearing our masks, but a few people trust themselves more. Please, in God alone we trust, all others we measure. So please ensure that your masks are tightly fitted. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, for the next 45 minutes, ours will be to walk through this theme, understanding Ghana's taxes and exemptions regime toward increasing investor confidence in the business environment. For 2 minutes each, walk us through your organization and what they do in respect of taxes and exemptions. Let me start with you, Mr. Lawrence Hochonyame.
Thank you, MC, and represent GRA on this very important platform. What we're going to discuss basically is the exemption regimes that are currently in our tax laws, and then we'll have the opportunity to take questions. As we speak now, as a result of COVID and its impact, some measures has been introduced to mitigate the burden on taxpayers. And one of them is waiver and interest. You know, these are supposed to be taxes to be paid. And most of our taxpayers over the years have accumulated huge penalties for failure to file returns on due dates and interest for failure to pay taxes on due dates. And this has been on our records with the passage of Act 1065 quite recently as part of the measures. Government has given opportunity for all our taxpayers to enjoy waiver of penalties and interest up to 31st December 2020. Okay. And we think that it is a window of opportunity that all businesses should quickly take advantage of, because the period for application runs from 1st April to 30th April. And so when you are not able to apply for a waiver of interest and penalties during the period, it means that when it expires, GRA will come and enforce the collection of those taxes. And also as part of the COVID measures, 30% rebate has been given to some selected businesses, especially businesses in the accommodation and feeding industry, like the hotel, and then travel and tours, and then education. And so those businesses, they enjoy 30% on their corporate rates. So for example, the corporate rate for hotels is 22%. And with this rebate, it brings it down to about 15.4% corporate rate. Okay. And so we want our taxpayers to know that these exemptions are available. And then the COVID reliefs, as part of the COVID impact, there has been several other exemptions that I want to quickly discuss. One of them are exemptions that relates to young entrepreneurs below the age of 35. So they can enjoy 5 years exemption. And then others are exemptions that applies to private investors. That exemption is also available. Then there are tax holidays for various businesses. Now let me quickly walk through the tax holidays available. For the agri sector, we have tree crops, cattle running for 10 years tax holidays. And then for cash crops, they have 5 years tax holidays. And so once you invest in that area, you enjoy those holidays. And during the holiday period, you pay only 1% of your chargeable income as taxes. Then agro-processing, cocoa byproduct business all enjoy 5 years tax holiday period, during which they pay 1% of their chargeable income. Then we have recycling of waste. They have about 7 years tax holiday period. And then during the tax holiday period, they enjoy or they pay 1%. Then we have rural banking. Rural banking enjoy 10 years tax holiday period. And so those who invest in rural banking can also take advantage of the tax holiday period, during which you pay 1% of your chargeable income. Now, the Revenue Administration Act has also been amended to make a provision for a tax amnesty. Section 74 of the Revenue Administration Act has been amended to inculcate a tax amnesty provision for all taxpayers that will make voluntary disclosure when they make inadequate declarations. And when you make that voluntary disclosure, any interest or penalties arising out of making misleading information or providing information to the Commissioner General inadvertently, the interest and penalties will also be subject to waiver. And I must be quick to also add that we have a mortgage interest relief that is available to our taxpayers when you take a loan and use that loan to construct your first residential premises, that is where you live. Interest on that loan is granted to you as a deduction or as a relief. And then for our friends in the automobile industry, there's an exemption of 3 years for those who are into semi-knockdown vehicles, and then 10 years for those who are into complete knockdown vehicles. So this exemption is also available to our people in the automobile industries. There are other reliefs that individuals could take advantage of. We have marriage and responsibility reliefs, we have child education reliefs, we have disability reliefs. These are all incentives that are available that our taxpayers can take advantage of. Just because the international community is here, we have signed about 13 treaties, and these treaties provides directly or some direct benefit to persons coming from those countries. So in the course of the discussions, I'll make the countries available, and this information is also on our website, GRA website. You can visit our website and then look at the benefits that are available for investors to be able to invest in various areas as far as the DTAs are concerned.
But Lawrence, let me ask, is there some research, is there some finding which suggests the impact of the activities of these industries on the economy, for which reason they are granted these exemptions?
Yes, of course. The tax exemptions or rebates or holidays are sector targeted. They are meant to promote those specific sectors. And of course, with the COVID, we know that the hotel industry is one of the worst hit industries.
Exactly.
With the COVID. And that is why the 30% rebate comes in to cushion those in the accommodation and the food industry.
But talk of people like me, events, meeting, which will contribute immensely to this, How come there's nothing for us?
Yeah, like my senior brother indicated in his presentation, taxation is a creature of statute. And once the law clearly provides for exemptions for a particular sector, the Commissioner General will go ahead and implement those exemptions. Yeah.
I'll take you on after this. But let's come to the Ghana Shippers Authority. How is this playing out with you? Exemptions and, the tax regime generally?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good morning. I'm representing Ghana Shippers Authority. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. By way of context, let me say Ghana Shippers Authority was established NRCD 254 in 1974 to represent the interest of shippers in Ghana. And this is what we have been doing over the years. One of the major things we do is to empower shippers. We do that through education and sensitization of shippers on their obligations, their rights, etc. We are also involved in the negotiation of charges at the port on behalf of shippers. Charges of terminal operators, charges of freight forwarders, charges of shipping agents and shipping lines, etc. We are also involved in resolution of shipper complaints. We receive complaints from shippers on a daily basis. Apart from our head office and branches, we also have what we call shipper complaints and support units all over the land borders, at KIA, etc. We are also involved in what I would call light infrastructure, such as warehousing, freight parks. A big one, of course, was the Buankra Inland Port as a way of facilitating trade for shippers. Indeed, most investors are shippers, and therefore we are with them when it comes to issues of taxes, etc. We have received numerous complaints about the cost of doing business at the ports, and we have made a number of representations to government based on our own findings and research. The last one that we did was in 2018, and as we speak, that research is being reviewed to see what can be done to alleviate the high cost of shipping and cost of doing business at the port. So we wear two hats. Even though we are a government agency, we represent shippers, and we can appreciate the concerns of importers, investors, etc., who would want tax rebates, exemptions, etc., to facilitate their businesses. So this will be my preliminary comment, okay. And when we come back, we may go into further details. Thank you.
Very much. The Minerals Commission.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Minerals Commission is a government agency which is responsible for the regulation and management of the mineral resources of the country, and the chief government advisor when it comes to mining. And each year we undertake investments with a view of getting investors into the country to invest in our mining sector. You agree with me that several countries which also have resources are also looking for investors to invest in the country. Therefore, it is important that you have attractive policies and incentives available in your country that can attract and induce investment into mining sector. So tax exemptions are one of those factors that investors consider whether they will invest in the country or not. You agree with me, mining is very risky business, it's capital intensive. It is risky in the sense that you carry out exploration and for several years, and in the end, you may not find anything, and you have to pack your things and go away. So as I said, tax exemptions are provided in our statutes and in our mining agreements with investors to give them some level of comfort so that they can invest in their country. If you pick the Minerals and Mining Act, we have sections that deal with benefits to investors. For instance, if you pick section 29 of the law, the Minerals and Mining Act, Act 703, it talks about additional benefits that will be given to a holder of a mining lease, and it includes the grant of tax exemptions. It includes exemption from payment of customs import duties on equipment, machinery that will be imported purposely for your mining activity. Again, if you go into the same law, we have sections 48, which talks about stability agreement, and then section 49, which deals with development agreement. What it means that the Ghana government can sign stability agreement with an investor or a mining leaseholder to freeze aspects of the fiscal impost at the time of the signing of the agreement for a period of 15 years to make it possible for the investor to work. In the case of development agreement, and that is only signed in a case where the investor spends about $500 million US in the mining operations. It is the same, of course, as it's an enhanced form of stability agreement. The stability agreement is also signed for a period of 50 years, a maximum period of 15 years. So all these are done with a view to ensuring that you can induce investments into the mining sector.
Let me ask, I remember the VAT exemption on plant equipment machinery, was given. Is it still in force?
The customs, when my colleague from the Ministry of Finance was speaking, I believe if you heard him, he said that, strictly speaking, if you look at the law, it deals only with exemptions of payment of customs import duties.
Oh, okay.
But it said over the years and through practice, VAT exemption has found its way into the system.
Okay. I asked for a very good friend of mine. Okay. But let me come to you, my good friend. You are from the Petroleum Commission. Walk us through the taxes and exemptions.
Thank you very much. So Petroleum Commission was set up by Act 821 to regulate and manage the upstream petroleum sector and coordinate the policies therein. And as part of these functions, we are to encourage investment in the upstream sector. And you would all agree with me that upstream investment globally is being competed for by companies with the resources. So it's not enough to say you have 1 or 2 discoveries in your country, so investors should come. What encompasses all this is the fiscal regime, which taxes and these exemptions are all part. So it's a way of making ourselves competitive to the investor world out there to come to our industry. And you will know that the industry is capital intensive. And so international oil companies with deep pockets are the ones that we usually find them in this space. In addition to this, as Mr. Noe mentioned, that there are objectives for giving out tax exemptions, and one of them is to lessen the burden of private sector. As we have service companies assisting the oil and gas industry, there are times when the oil price goes down and the market conditions become a bit turbulent for them. These tax exemptions come in handy to assist the industry and then ease the pain that they go through. So we consider this as a very crucial aspect of the upstream petroleum industry. And as a way of advising the Minister for Energy in formulating policies for the sector, we consider the impact of tax exemptions in attracting FDIs. And so presently we are looking at trying to revise our fiscal regime to make it more competitive and attractive for investors to come in. And we are considering areas of our laws that we would consider relevant to trigger investor interest into the country. One other area I would like to touch on has to do with exploration of oil and gas in Ghana. One key activity is drilling, which mostly have foreign companies who normally undertake this kind of activities. Before they would agree to come in, they would want to assess the economics to see that how much I am charging in Ghana for my services would not, I will not be adversely impacted by the local taxes that are being charged in the country. So we would always have to show these taxes and the exemptions and possible ways of getting reliefs to these companies to convince them to come and do business in the petroleum sector.
Wow. Okay. If you're joining us, it is the second GIPC CEO breakfast meeting. It happens 4 times in a year, every quarter. Today we're at the Labadi Beach Hotel, our usual place of gathering, and we're dwelling on the theme, understanding Ghana's taxes and exemptions regime towards increasing investor confidence in the business environment. Just gone by was a presentation from our partner, the AHK, the German delegation, and a presentation also by the Ministry of Finance, walking us through this theme that we're reflecting on. Right now, I'm seated with Mr. Lawrence Ochunyame, he's the Principal Revenue Officer from the Ghana Revenue Authority. Mr. Emmanuel Akon, he's the Head of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ghana Shippers Authority. Mr. Collins Enim Saki, he's the Director, Policy Planning, Minerals Commission. And Mr. Ebenezer Hammer, he's the Manager, Project Evaluation, Petroleum Commission. You might want to interact with us. You might want to use the hashtag GIPCCBM, GH Taxes and Exemptions, Ghana, and forward your questions, your contributions, your suggestions. We also have a poll that's coming up for all our viewers who are joining us on Microsoft Teams, so please do well and fill the poll as it appears on your screen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some good time to engage with our resource persons on the range of issues that they've touched on. Let me start with you, my friend from GRA. Lawrence, there are too many documents required for tax exemptions in Ghana. That's what people argue, from business plan to valid TCC. What has necessitated these extra requirements which make the processing of exemptions so cumbersome?
Thank you very much. For you to qualify for an exemption, it has to be prescribed by law. And then the law also clearly spelled out the conditions that has to be satisfied before one gets it. And so the requirements are there. You need to submit all the relevant documents. You have to start from the GIPC, satisfy the requirements under GIPC, and then when you come to GRA, you have to demonstrate that you are compliant with your taxes. You would realize that when somebody is applying for exemption, he's not applying for the exemption for all the tax types. He's just looking for an exemption in a particular tax type. Okay. So the Commissioner General has to be satisfied that all other tax types are fully settled, and then he will proceed to grant you the exemption that is required. So the conditions that needed to be satisfied are also prescribed by law, which the Commissioner General must strictly adhere to.
Okay, there are lots of questions coming in for you, but now let me come to our in-house audience. If you have a question, a suggestion, please raise your hand, identify yourself, and shoot straight to your question. We shall only take one. Yes, sir. Can we have a mic for him, please? For all our viewers online, we encourage you to please join in the discussion. Send your questions to the feed, and we shall read them out for you. Yes,
Hello.
sir.
My name is David Masterwell. I'm a creative entrepreneur. I operate in the film sector. And you've talked, especially the GRA rep has spoken about the various tax exemptions and reliefs that are available to the various sectors, but none of them touches on the creative art side. About 2-3 months ago, we imported video cameras from America to produce a socially relevant program, helping people, poor people who have gotten into accident and they are unable to get insurance, to help them, educate them on how they can get insurance settlement. We brought our video equipment, we got to the port, and they put 50%, 16 different taxes on the video equipment, aggregating to about 50%. We pleaded with them that we are doing something for the benefit of society, but nobody listened to us. So, and recently the president launched the film series, the pitch series, trying to help rejuvenate the film sector. So I want to know, as soon as possible, what is the GRA going to do to make sure that the film sector people, there's going to be sort of tax relief so that the president's effort will not come to a naught? Because if such an effort is being made, but then we bring our equipment to the port and we are having to pay these punitive, prohibitive taxes, it's very bad for the industry. So I want to know what the GRA is going to do as soon as possible for the creative arts sector. Thank you.
And to think that during lockdown you were entertaining us all.
Exactly.
Can you imagine?
Exactly. But there's no help for us.
All right, thank you very much. We shall take 2 more and revert to our panel. Yes, sir. Okay, you should.
Okay. My name is Siddiq Abdullahi. I want to ask the gentleman from GRA, does the location of one's business enjoy any tax consideration? Granted, I have business A in Accra Metro and I have business B far in maybe in a deprived district in Code. These two, does the one in a deprived district enjoy any tax consideration? And if yes, what are they? If no, why? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take the last, or we shall take 2 more. Yes, I see a hand here.
Hello. I'm Kwame Wiafe. I work for Wilma Africa Limited. I wanted to find out from the man from GRA what informs us mixing a fixed levy with VAT, and whether an analysis has been made on the impact of this policy on investment and on domestic consumption. Because usually when you are talking about consumption tax, it's either you go the full VAT spectrum or you go the sales tax, which is a fixed rate spectrum. But quite strangely, Ghana has now combined the fixed rate with the VAT, and the impact is enormous. And I don't know whether there has been any analysis. What is even worrying is that the government now has a penchant of adding to the fixed rate. The cascading impact of the fixed rate depending on where you stand on the value chain. So for example, those of us in manufacturing, assuming you are just buying a carton, the person bringing the raw material will pay the fixed rate. It's unrecoverable. It will add to his cost. The person processing it will also add fixed rate to his cost. I will buy it and add another fixed rate to the cost. When I'm also selling out, I will also add. So before you realize, the fixed rate has compounded to about 5, 6, 7 times. And competing within the soft region, Nigeria, for example, only has a VAT rate of 7%. There's no fixed rate on it. VAT is if somebody is producing in Nigeria, he only needs to charge VAT 7%. But Ghana, you pay about 4% as flat, and depending on where we so, I'm wondering whether any analysis, what has informed us from moving into this duopoly of a fixed rate and a VAT rate, and whether any analysis is being done, because apart from giving exemptions to companies, I think this is a significant disincentive to investment in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kwame Riafe. Let's take the last one for this round. Okay. Lawrence, GRA, you stand accused on all 3 counts. Please respond.
Yeah, thank you very much. To respond to the first question on the art and entertainment industry, the good news is that the 30% rebate that has been introduced quite recently affect your sector. So the 30% rebates, I mentioned the food and the accommodation industry, that is the hotels. I mentioned education. I mentioned arts and entertainment, and then the last one is travel and tours. So your sector is equally covered by the 30% rebate, which has just been introduced. With the locational tax incentives, yes, those facilities exist, but it is sector specific. Let me give an example of manufacturing sector. When you are running a manufacturing sector and you are operating in Accra, Tema Enclave, you do not have any rebate. But when you're operating, for example, in the regional capitals, you have 25% rebate. When you are a manufacturing company operating in the regional capitals, so they pay a lower tax rate. And then when you are a manufacturing company operating from towns and cities other than the regional capitals, they get a 50% rebate. So their corporate rate, for example, is 12.5%. So that provision is there depending on which sector, specific sector you are operating from. It is in agro-processing. So the agro-processing, after the 5 years tax holiday period, when you are operating within Accra, you pay a corporate rate, let's say 20%. When you are cited in the regions, you pay 15%, it goes down to 12.5%, and then it comes down to 10%, and so on and so forth. We have it also in the cocoa byproduct business. For those who are processing cocoa byproduct, they also have the locational tax incentives. So they are there, but it is industry specific. So we have it in manufacturing sector, agro-processing sector, cocoa by business sector, and then the agric business. Okay. Those who are in the agric business also enjoys it. I think the third question was whether any analysis went into decoupling
levy from VAT.
The levies from VAT. I think that my boss is rightly sitting here. That's a question that is policy related, but from the GRA's perspective, a lot of thinking went into it because we work very closely with the Ministry of Finance. When you look at the first time the levies have been decoupled, previously all the levies were not there. They were part of the VAT in its entirety. Then somewhere along the line, the Get Fund levies and the N-Hill were decoupled from the VAT. And it's for a very good reason, and it has worked perfectly. And so when the COVID-19 levy of 1% came, the same treatment that went into, or the mechanics that went into decoupling Get Fund levy and then the N-Hill levy, the same went into the COVID-19 levy. So the application and the mechanics into the levies are the same. It's not a new introduction. The impact on prices, like I indicated, yes, of course, it may translate to a very, very marginal increase. For example, if a bottle of water is sold at 1 cedi, let's assume that bottle of water, 1 cedi, already has Get Fund and NHIL into it, built up into it to have the 1 CD. When we are adding, let's say, the COVID levy of 1%, it only translates into 0.01 to it. So the increase in price may be very, very, very marginal. But you know that it's not only taxes that translate into price increases. There are several other factors that goes into determining price in Ghana. But a lot of thinking went into it. And
we would explore that thinking from Mr. Nwe.
In a way different from the Get Fund and then the NHIL levies.
I hear. Let's leave that to Mr. Nwe. He will make a quick intervention. But now let's move to the very first question on the private sector. The creative sector, I beg your pardon. The guy who asked the question about the creative sector and what GRA is going to do.
Yes, so I mentioned that was the first question I responded to, that the 30% rebate is extended to cover the art and the entertainment sector.
Okay. Mr. Nwe, could you please do us a favor? Walk us through. For me, I mean, I'm a victim myself. When I'm calculating every time, there's an error. And for me, I see no reason why we can't merge all of these into one. He has given us a theoretical approach to it, but give us the practical, understanding of it. Why is there the cascading effect?
Okay, let's look at the rationale first and make it a bit clear. Now, if we pick VAT, and the difference between these items and VAT is that they're all on goods and services. They all have the same exemptions. They have the same reliefs. So exemptions, reliefs apply equally. But then the VAT has what we call the input-output method. So if I charge VAT on goods, 10 cedis, then what I'll do is that the VAT I've paid, 5 cedis, I'll take it out of the 10 cedis and give the 5 cedis to government. I'll take out the VAT I've paid and give it to government. So basically, that was what was happening with the levies. But then those levies are earmarked for education and health. You want to take exactly what you collect and apply it. But then what happens is that different people have different inputs. So it's even possible for somebody to charge VAT of 10 cedis and have input of 9 cedis. It means only 1 cedi will go to health or education. There's another person, same transaction, might have output 10 cedis, input 5 cedis. 5 cedis goes to health or education. There's no consistency. You're not sure of how much goes. And we're having problems with, especially the National Health Levy, National Health Insurance. I'm sure we all heard the issue of the lack of money to get these things done. And so the question was to increase the levy or find another way of making sure that you had enough money to go there. So one of the main policy rationales for decoupling make sure that if I'm collecting 1 cedi, it's going to health. If it's 2 cedis I'm collecting, it's going to education. Simplicity. Well, now, the computation issue. And let me explain that everybody knew, and the policymakers were very much aware, that there would be some increase. Now, we are talking about marginal increases. There's an interesting thing that happens in this country. We round up figures. So, instead of maybe a 1 cedi or a 1 pesewa increase, to go to 5 pesos or 10 pesos, sometimes even 50 pesos. I mean, I've been buying kinky 1 cedi. Sunday I go, the kinky is now either 1 cedi 50 pesos or 2 cedis. It's a 50 pesos, that's a 50% increase.
Yeah.
But if we had been increasing according to the real marginal rates, they will be lower. So there are other things that are creeping into the computations that are making it bigger than it should be. And so it's not just the tax. Another thing is basically the return we expect on our investment. We had a conversation with AGI recently. And I said, look, everybody is cutting down on their rate of return. Shouldn't business also be looking at that, look, yes, I was making 20% rate of return, or even 5%. But when you're in different times, things have changed. Government has been said. So why don't all of us reduce our rate of return small, so that there will be enough money, government can get money too, and cater for those who are hard hit. We are buying vaccines for the populace. Who is paying for the vaccines? It's not being paid by individuals. It's being paid from the center. Mm-hmm. And so these are conversations that, yes, there will be some increases. I mean, when it happens with taxes, it happens. There will be unintended consequences.
Okay.
They will happen. When these things come, we look at them and we do it. There are conversations we're having on the levies with AGI and some others where we've asked, okay, give us an idea of the impact. We're also doing our studies. You also give us your impact. Let's look at it and see how we can manage it and resolve it so that it benefits everybody, which is why tax policy changes, which is why we all have input into tax policy. Okay. So we are open for discussion. Let us see the impact. Let's sit down. Let's see how we can manage it. Because the businesses must grow for us to collect tax. If it's inhibiting business, it means we can't collect the tax. And
so I think right now it behoves on you and GRA to come to that common understanding and fashion out something which would be easy to disseminate to the rest of your stakeholders. Because I believe if that is done, we would all come to a common understanding on how these things pan out. Do I speak for everybody? Okay, let's just deviate a bit. Let me come to you, my friend, Mr. Collins Inimsaki. You have a question here. It says, to the Minerals Commission, why do you want SMEs providing support services such as cleaning and other minor housekeeping support services pay permit fees of up to $10,000? Something needs to be done with this as soon as possible. This is from Ma Ama. What do you say to him, sir?
SMEs providing cleaning services are not paying fees to the tune of $10,000. That is incorrect. Okay. In fact, SMEs providing cleaning services, those that are supplying food to the mining industries, those that are carrying out weeding and other services to the mining, the maximum fee they pay is 1,500 Ghana cedis.
Okay. That's it.
That is it. Yes.
Okay. So what accounts for all this, misconception and
Well, I don't know. Support services is categorized into three classes: Class A, Class B, Class C. Class A services is open to everyone, either you are a Ghanaian or you are a foreigner. And the services that can be found under Class A include supply of equipment to the mining industry, contract mining, provision of assay services, and others. There, the fee is equivalent of $10,000.
Oh, okay.
Class B services have been reserved for Ghanaians only. Under Class B, the services include contract mining to small-scale miners, provision of security services, provision of catering services to the mining industry, supply of fuel to the mining industry has also been reserved for Ghanaians. For that category of services, the maximum one pays is the equivalent of $6,000.
Okay.
Then the Class C, which I talk about, the maximum is 1,500 Ghana cedis.
Okay. So Ma'ama, you now know where you fall. You are informed, so please do the needful. Let's take one question from here, after which I shall revert to GRA. Yes, sir. A mic for him, please.
My name is Stephen. Mine is a follow-up question to the the question the gentleman raised on manufacturing in terms of the VAT, he used a certain word that is a value chain. I am a distributor of one of the telecommunication giants. And my mode of operation, I'm entitled to 1% commission. Now, when I lift inventory from the principal, there's a certain 5% I pay as levy, which ordinarily, previously, would have been part of my input VAT. Now, when you pay, you can't claim the levy. You can only claim the 12.5. When I sell to the next value chain, it means I'm passing on a certain 5% because they will come after me that I have to pay levy. Now, in my mode of operation, I can't tamper with my selling price. My margin is 1%. Who pays for the 5% that I can't claim?
That's a big one.
The technical man was talking about sometimes we run out figures. I believe strongly that in their analysis, they were looking at just the percentages being what, but industries varies. And I do purchase for around 70 million. In there, there's some 3 million that I cannot claim. Now, when I'm filing, I'm going to file and then they will decouple that pay your outputs as 12.5, your levy is this. That 5%, I cannot, ordinarily I should have added to my selling price to pass on to the consumer, but I cannot do that. So who pays for it?
All right. Let's take the last question and then we shall revert to the panel. The last question, in-house. Okay, let me read this one in addition. This one says, where can one get the full details of taxes, exemption and rebates and stamped with the date of publication and effectiveness so one knows one is reading the latest provision? Thank you. All right. So let's begin with his and then end with this one. GRA.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me pick it from our brother. You know, the levies, from when they were decoupled from the main thing, like my boss rightly explained, these levies are earmarked funds. And that was the reason why they were decoupled. They were meant for specific sectors of the economy. So immediately GRA collects, it goes specifically to those sectors. And the law specifically says that those levies should not be allowed as an input tax deduction. So the question is, how would the taxpayer handle it? You know, it's allowed generally to be taken as a cost that will be deducted as an expense against your income tax. And so it will by all means be taken care of somewhere. The law provides that all those levies for which input tax deduction is denied should be taken as a cost or an expense and charged against income. And so if, let's say, those levies amounts to, let's say, 100,000, and then your chargeable income is 100,000, those levies will end up reducing your chargeable income to zero, which will mean that you will not be liable to pay income taxes for that year. So the law makes a very clear provision to do a set-off to take care of that burden on the taxpayers. And so that is how the treatment is. It is envisaged that by all means somebody must take care, somebody must bear the burden. And so the law makes provision that, well, we could switch and deduct it. And a lot of people have done that, reduce their chargeable income as far as income taxes to nil, and then for corporate taxes, they were not liable to pay taxes. So that is how the mechanism was put in place to take care of it. Then the next question is whether all these exemptions and this thing can be put together. You know, taxation is a very dynamic and very, very dynamic discipline. So we can be discussing something here this morning. By close of day, if Parliament meets and pass a new set of legislation, it changes. So the position we hold today does not suggest that that position will remain forever. Once there's a change in law, the whole arrangement changes. Okay. But as we speak now, when you visit our website, GRA's website, www.gra.gov.gh, all the exemptions and the reliefs are there. You can easily make reference to them. And then if you want to be very, very abreast, then I would advise that you visit the Assembly Press periodically and get the amendments. And that is what we all do. I mean, once in a while we visit the Assembly Press and get the most recent amendments of the law, and then we become very abreast with the changes. So that is the position. Thank you.
I'll give you 1 minute just to respond to that, but let me just chip in this. In terms of the exemptions that you articulated, the time frame, somebody wants to know, Alexander Kripente wants to know, what happens to sectors that are unable to apply for the tax exemption during this period? Is there any opportunity again for such sectors?
Yeah, so if the exemption is specifically captured by law, the law specifically says this exemptions applies to you, you enjoy it. If it's 5 years, you enjoy it for 5 years. But let's take, for example, the waiver of penalties and interest. Sure. It has a sunset clause. It's ending by 30th September. So if you are not able to submit your application to the Commissioner General by 30th September, you are not in a position to take advantage of this window of opportunity to get your interest and penalties waived. And so, I mean, we trying to bring all our taxpayers, because we know what is on their records. Most of them have huge penalties and huge interest on their files. And some of them previously applied for waivers and they never got it. And so with this current opportunity, I think that it's just fair that our taxpayers will take advantage. The only caveat is that if there are any outstanding liabilities, you pay. Then the Commissioner General will waive any interest or penalties. Thank you.
It's been time well spent, ladies and gentlemen, understanding Ghana's taxes and exemption regime toward increasing investor confidence in the business environment. My panelists, Lawrence Hochonyame, Principal Revenue Officer, Ghana Revenue Authority. Mr. Emmanuel Akon, he's the Head of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ghana Shippers Authority. Mr. Collins Enim Saki is the Director, Policy Planning, Mineral Commission. Ebenezer Hammer is the Manager, Project Evaluation. In a short while, I'll be coming to you all for your closing remarks. Let me give you a minute to...
the explanation he gave is that you can use the levy that has been paid at the time of purchase to reduce your chargeable income. But my chargeable income or my margin, so at that point, GRA or government was anticipating that everybody makes more than 5%, which is no. I do only 1%. So at that point, I have paid 5% as levy, which amounted to 3 million, against a margin that I made of 700,000. I've not even considered my employees' salaries. When I get there, who pays for that loss? That is the question.
Lawrence, you want to do a second World War?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, generally, tax laws are drafted to cover all persons. When Parliament is passing a law, the law is intended to cover all persons or a segment, a sector, or... And so some of our taxpayers have unique, very unique challenges, and it's just unique to that taxpayer. The law makes a provision that when you find yourself in that situation, you can apply to the Commissioner General for a private ruling. A private ruling. The law makes a provision that, look, as far as my business is concerned, this is the unique circumstances surrounding my business. I charge this, my commission is 1%, I pay so much 5%, and it is putting me in perpetual losses.
Exactly.
So the Commissioner General should look into your circumstance and grant you a private ruling. The Commissioner General will look at it, and if it sits within the law, the Commissioner General will grant you that private ruling. And so, I mean, that's another opportunity. Taxpayers could apply for private ruling depending on the uniqueness of their circumstance. Okay. And then the Commissioner General can take a decision specifically in respect of that taxpayer.
Okay.
Depending on the nature of business and the circumstances that surrounds that business.
Senior, we have hope. And so it's been, I see many hands still. Hey. Madam CEO, with your permission, I've done the best I could. 11:30, I promised I'll deliver. Can we extend till 12? Or 45? 45, okay. So we shall take the last one. Yes, sir.
Just reiterating the issue, and I think it's extremely important.
Okay.
And he made a point. The response that came, and that is why in the beginning I asked whether some analysis is done. Because if somebody understands our structure and the way we work, I think some of the policies will have a second look. So in the distributive trade, the position that he is articulating, that is precisely what permeates.
Okay.
So for the manufacturers, it is easy for us to add the 5%. When we sell to our distributors who would distribute our products, now there is a huge confusion that is impacting manufacturers because most of these distributors can only add maximum 1, 2, at best 3% to the price that I have sold to him. Now there is this lacuna of law that is compelling them to charge, apart from they paying the 5% that is embedded in my price, that they need to charge minimum this 5% before they may add their margins, which is impossible in the distributive trade. It is impossible. And so there is now a huge issue where GRA is hunting all the distributors of most of these big manufacturers, asking them to pay this extra 5%, which is impossible because if they added that 5%, prices will go up very high. And in the distributive trade, the maximum margin, depending on the product, will be maximum 3%. So it is creating a huge burden and a huge confusion for players like us in the industry. Apart from dealing with the impact on your cost, which I have already intimated, depending on where you sit, you will end up, he mentioned that the analysis, I don't know how the analysis is done. I don't know the template that is used, but I can show that depending on where one sits in the industry, the impact of just 1% increase he mentioned can be 10%. By the time it reaches you, 10%. When I needed to add on my price minimum 2%, now all my suppliers have also advised the prices up by that 1%, depending on where they sit. So if I'm buying from a supplier who is third in the chain, the person, it has cascaded to him and it is cascaded. So the impact of this policy, and I want to highlight it, that the impact is huge. And it is important that it is better if the VAT rate is increased to 20%, 21%, then it makes for easy administration. But combining these two, Ghana is a novelty. And if you don't take care, our competitiveness is seriously being undermined because within the sub-region, we are an outlier when it comes to this policy. And it is important that policymakers listen and do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all our contributors thus far. You've brought so much insight to this conversation. Lawrence, I hope you're not taking this personal. It comes with the job. Even Zacchaeus suffered more than you. But in closing, what are your closing thoughts?
From the feedback I got, we realized that it's an issue that cuts across a segment of taxpayers. And like I indicated earlier, initially I thought that it was unique to him. So I said, well, you could apply for a private ruling. The good news is that the law also makes provision for a class ruling. A class ruling to affect the class of people that that provision are going through that challenge. So they could take advantage and apply for a class ruling, and the Commissioner General will look at it dispassionately and then come out with a ruling in their favor. But the final comment is that, well, the doors of GRA is opened. As we speak currently, we trying to migrate all our individual taxpayers who are on the tax identification number to Ghana card PIN, which is what we are doing currently. Individuals who were previously using TIN to do their transactions, we're migrating them to the Ghana card PIN. So let me use this opportunity to call on all individuals here to move to our various offices and get that information matched. When you go, you just spend less than 5 minutes, and then they match your TIN to your Ghana card PIN. Moving forward, GIPC wants to be the first public organization to start using the Ghana card number PIN for the purposes of all transactions within GRA. And we'll be identifying our taxpayers with that number. So we would advise that all our individual taxpayers will do that. The corporate entities, companies, and all other entities will continue to use their old tax identification numbers. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me come to my friends from the Ghana Shippers Authority, together with the Minerals Commission and the Petroleum Commission. You seem not to have a lot of your constituents here, your stakeholders. I will suggest to you to try and create some situation where you have all of them, to also keep them abreast of what you're doing in respect of taxes and exemptions. But let me take your final comments.
Thank you very much. I think, Mr. Jololo, I'm sure you are aware that we also have shipper committees all over the country. They are major stakeholders and constituents. I guess not many of them are here, but it's important to note that the issue of taxes and exemptions are very dear to many of the participants here. I would just urge that apart from representing importers and exporters, issues that have to do with the general trading environment is also something that we handle. So you can use our offices. We've influenced many policies in the past in the interest of shippers. So if we receive complaints through our branches, etc., we can also visit our website, GhanaShippersAuthority.org.gh. You can lodge a complaint. And we can also work through our ministry, as the Ministry of Transport, to affect some of these policies. Most of the issues that were discussed, I realized GRA is only implementing a policy that has level, and I urge that you make your voices heard, then we can represent you adequately. I want to thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Minerals Commission.
Thank you very much. I'll repeat what I said earlier, that tax incentives are necessary, especially if we want to bring investments into the mining industry. But what we need to do is to ensure that they are effective, that the policy for which these incentives are given are achieved, and they are not abused. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Just like Minerals Commission is also in the extractive industry, we are all the same and we share the same view. But what I will add to it is that there is the need to have all tax exemptions, incentives, reliefs codified and updated from time to time, so that those of us in the specialized industry, when we are going for promotions, we can have an updated document to tell investors, this is what you stand to gain when you come to Ghana, and we can promise you this, and it is codified in our laws. Again, we will call on our sister agency, GRA, and the Ministry of Finance, that some of these issues, when it comes up, for instance, the VAT issues, there is the need to put out the practice notes and also do more sensitizations with the stakeholders so that we iron out. Sometimes at the inception of or development of a policy, we would have certain thoughts in mind, but that thought radically changes when it comes to the implementation phase. So that is where stakeholders, we all need to come together and then work together to ensure that whatever exemption, whatever tax is being put out there achieves its intended purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so on the matter of understanding Ghana's taxes and exemptions regime towards increasing investor confidence in the business environment, my takeout are simple. Tax is not only about revenue, it's a tool for national development. At the same time, policymakers and policy implementers need to be on the same page. And information should be broken down to the barest minimum. Because you see, perception is what is driving that negative response to paying taxes, going for exemption. It's all hinged on perception, negative perception. If we have the information, let's break it down. Let's share it. And I believe all of us, we have Ghana at heart. We want to promote Ghana. We want to make sure that we grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me say a big thank you to Mr. Lawrence Hochunyame. He's the Principal Revenue Officer, GRA. Emmanuel Akon, he's the Head of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ghana Shippers Authority. Collins Enimsaki, Director, Policy Planning, Minerals Commission. And Ebenezer Hama, he's the Project Manager, Project Evaluation, Petroleum Commission. Gentlemen, I thank you for your time and for your insights. Do we have the results from the poll ready? Not yet? Okay. Then let's take one video of Growing Ghana, Grow with Ghana.
Located at the
Okay, we shall be back with the video. Okay.
Cassa Precon is a total beverage company. We are manufacturers of both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. Cassa Precon is at a growth stage. What I want to say is that we are continuously improving upon our products and also increasing our markets outreach. So currently we are looking at the local markets, and we have a broader focus with the global market as well. We can boast of employing over 600 workers at the Accra branch, and currently the Tanaso factory is looking to employ over 300 employees. This creates job avenue for those in the private sector. Also, you know of our favorite brand, Awake, whereby with every bottle that you buy, 1 pesewa is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center at Kolebu. This is aiding improving upon the health lives of people over there. We also have projects that has helped in creating of water supply to regions where water availability is much difficult to come by. Cassa Precon is a wholly owned Ghanaian company, and our success is based on the stable economy that is here currently in the country, the rich supply of raw materials, political stability, as well as the market size. So looking at all of this has made Cassa Precon a success story that is encouraging to other companies that would want to pick it up. The Ghana Investment Promotion Center has been a backbone to our success story, in that apart from being part of the Ghana Club 100, which has made it a brand publicity for the company, it has helped boost up our market's recognition. And this has promoted a brand in all other aspects of the country in terms of sales and profitability. We've had tax exemptions on some of the things that we have to import, including raw materials and then equipment. This has made the easy flow and then running of the company and cutting down on would-be costs we could have generated, all thanks to the GIPC. When the president of the country came out with a very good initiative that was focusing on developing the public and private sector to both large-scale industries and small-scale industries, we took advantage of that to see how best we could also improve upon our market reach in the country. When we joined the 1D, 1F, we were given wonderful packages that enabled us to meet up to deadlines in setting up of the factory. Some of these included tax exemptions on some of the equipment and material that we needed to develop the factory. Also, the 1D1F project enabled us to facilitate certain registration purposes that needed to have been done. And with the help of the 1D1F, we're able to improve and facilitate upon all those registration needs and legalities that were involved. We here in Cassa Precon, we believe in product development. So what we do is that we have a market research team that works hand in hand with our R&D department. So with good customer service relationships, we're able to hear the feedback from our consumers. And what we do is that we tailor our products to meet the needs and demands of our consumers. The legacy Cassa Precon would like to leave behind is we would want to be recognized as a manufacturing company that produces safe, quality, and affordable beverages, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, with exceptional customer service for all the brands that we produce currently in the country and on the global markets. Dear all investors, both local and foreign, we would like to use this opportunity to encourage you to invest in Ghana, partner with companies such as Cassa Precon, so that as one, we can grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana.
It's a sign of great things to come, ladies and gentlemen, as we grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. Put your hands together and let's celebrate how far we've come. GIPC. It now falls to the Chief Operating Officer of the GIPC, speaking on behalf of the CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nana Dufie-Addo for her closing remarks.
Thank you so much. We at GIPC are excited for the opportunity to commune with you all, key members of the business community. As an institution, we will always strive to continue to facilitate a conducive investment landscape for businesses in Ghana. We know taxes and exemptions thereof have presented some discomfort and confusion, and we are thankful for this opportunity, your presence really, to have this enlightening discussion. Our aftercare division and process optimization in-house will seek to help investors to resolve all key issues and provide clarity around some of the issues that impact the cost of doing business, including taxes. For example, we're in the process of finalizing an investor roadmap document that will clearly highlight the scope and requirements for investors to be awarded exemptions. So that should be very helpful. In my view, the near future is both challenging and exciting. Challenging given the impact of COVID on businesses, but exciting because COVID has presented a unique opportunity for us to optimize the way we operate. Now more than ever, especially due to the high expenditure versus low tax collection environment we find ourselves, we have to ensure our tax regime is efficient, equitable, and transparent to facilitate a conducive business environment for strong economic growth, which we will all benefit from. I'd like to call on all of us to collectively streamline the status quo and innovate to grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. I'd like to also take the opportunity to acknowledge the support of DFIs and agencies that have been very supportive in facilitating GIPC's rebranding and optimization under the leadership of Mr. Yofi Grant. namely AHK, GIZ, and the World Bank Group under the GET program. Thank you all for coming. Take care.
Thank you very much, our COO, Nana Dufie-Addo. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe all that needs to be said has been said. All that needs to be done has been done. This is the second Ghana Investment Promotion Center CEO breakfast meeting. We do this every quarter, and I believe that as the COVID-19 restrictions seems to be, easing up, and the cases also seem to be going away, hopefully by the third edition, we should all be here in our numbers. Even some who want to join us online will repent and still join us. My name is Jerry Ajololo, and on behalf of the GIPC, let me say thank you to you all for coming. Let's rise as we bring proceedings to a close with a prayer from a principal officer, Madam Seiram Amakba Asasu.
Shall we pray? Everlasting Father, we thank you for showing us your faithfulness again today. We called on you at the beginning of this event, and we have seen that it has been a success. We pray that every effort we make for the growth of our country will be multiplied by your grace, that you continue to bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. Amen.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, just a big favor, can we all come forward and have a group photograph with our Chief Operating Officer? I beg you in all the names of God, please. Let's come forward and have one group photograph. The last edition was virtual. This has been a hybrid. The next one will be full house. And all who believe shall say a big amen. So please let me have you forward. Let's take one photograph together.